All right, everybody. This video is discussing the problem with the 390 tensioner. So I have my tensioner here. Takes two 8mm bolts, obviously here and here. And then if you actually reach inside, you can feel the chain guide. So the chain guide comes up like this, and then tension goes this way, puts tension on the chain, and then that wraps around the cams. And there's another chain guide on this other side coming down here. So, as a lot of you guys might know, I recently did a lot of head work. And by a lot, I really mean just a monumental amount of effort to install titanium retainers while leaving the head in place, which was a big pain. So the problem I'm having is that I'm having issues with starting. So I did titanium retainers. I also did a leak down test, compression test. Motor is healthy. Leak down was fantastic. No big issues. I think it was less than, I think it was around 7% average for the entire thing. And for a motor like this, that's got 23,000 miles on the clock. That's pretty good. So, new spark plug. I got, I'm sure you've seen my other video. Coil setup, or plug wire and boot setup, MSD ignition stuff. All that stuff's still good to go. No big issues so far with all that stuff. But I still have an issue where having issues with starting. I thought maybe the stator might have been going out, and then I found out that my multimeter was bad. I guess some battery acid must have got to the board while it was being transported here in my moving goods. And so it's reading way lower, and actually verified and confirmed that the battery's good. The battery's actually brand new, and that I'm getting near 14 volts output from the stator, which is excellent. When the bike starts and runs, it runs fine. It just takes a little bit of effort to get it there. So thinking about it, what I think is happening is that this tensioner is causing issues because it may not be doing the job that it needs to here. If the chain is not as tight as it's supposed to be, what you can find is that your cam timing can be off slightly from your crank, and that's just due to the fact that there's more slack. These things kind of happen. Plus, you'll start to hear chain slap with these bikes. It is super common. A lot of people will say, yes, it's a single cylinder thumper, all this other stuff, right? These things have some noisy chains, and the culprit is typically this tensioner. So this is the second time I've changed this tensioner out, and this is the exact same issue that I had before. I actually ordered a manual tensioner that's coming in pretty soon, so hopefully this resolves my issue. But I want to show you the main issue that I end up running into. So as you can see, I pulled the head off of the tensioner. I'll tell you, it didn't take too much effort, and I'll explain to you the reason why. So the way this works is, obviously there's a 10 mil in here. There's a small flathead you use, and then you can retract and push this out, right? Now, right here you can see there's a pin that goes through, and then there's basically a head that goes on top of this. So let's look at this real quick. So this is the head. This piece typically goes on like this. Now, when I originally had it, I literally could just grab it to one side, kind of lift up like this, and it would rock. And this side was solid. Ignore the fact that this is flat. I was trying to pull the pin out so I can remove the head of this. But what I want you to take notice is this inside portion. Now, other than the fact that I used a flat tip to kind of help push this out, what you're going to see here is there is a large portion of this that is missing. This is the second time I've actually had this happen. You can see right through this channel, it's all of this piece is missing. And if you notice as well, we have this portion that's drawn out a little bit. Typically this part stays flush with here, but look at the gap right here between this part and this part. So what does that tell you? That what that means is that not only are we missing a large portion here in the center, we're also getting right here an extremely small amount of contact, because again, a huge portion of that is missing. And it was to the point to where physically this head right here could rock, and if I wanted to, I could actually find a way to where I was able to, just using my hands alone, remove this over the top past this portion since it's missing. So this is one of the biggest things that really drives me crazy about KTM quality control, is that this is obviously a known issue, right? There's a couple of known issues with these bikes. Second gens have oil pressure sensor issues. There's also second gens that have issues with water pump seals allowing coolant to mix with oil, right? First gens have kickstand sensor issues. All of them have fueling issues, right? This is something that's very important that you do not want to break, because if this comes off in timing, if that is allowed to, I will tell you from experience alone, I have when retiming this bike and double checking to see if timing was set correctly while doing valve shims, because I've done valve shims on this bike like 5 times now. If you do not have this tensioner installed, you will jump timing. And now imagine having that happen. Imagine this piece blowing off, and then, let's just assume that it doesn't completely annihilate the bottom crank gear, and it makes it down to the oil pan, right? And then doesn't get beat to death by the crankshaft. You have an extremely high chance of jumping timing because of that. And if that happens, it's pretty much game over, right? I have ran the bike with one tooth off, and I will tell you, it will run. It runs like garbage, but anything past that, I have my doubts as to whether or not it would survive. I'm pretty sure that would be way too advanced or retarded in timing, and you would have a whole bunch of bent valves and a very unhappy piston. So something like this is kind of a pain. So when you hear people talk about valve train noise or chain slap or chain noise, this is probably what the culprit actually ends up being. Now, I hear people joking about how you should buy these tensioners in 3-packs. You should buy them and then just prepare to replace it with another one. This tensioner only has, I'd say less than 10,000 miles on it. I didn't buy it long ago, I'll tell you that. So the fact that this is reoccurring so soon is very unfortunate. But as you can see, I mean, look how thin that pin that they used. I kind of wonder if that pin was thicker, if that would help resolve this issue. Maybe if they drill the hole a little bit bigger, inserted a bigger pin, or perhaps it's the material. Either way, make sure you guys check your tensioners. Make sure you look for signs like that. And I would recommend considering doing a manual tensioner swap, so you don't have to keep shelling out money for this thing. Manual tensioners, I think, from gray area are like $60 plus shipping. I mean, that's the price of like 2 of these, I think. But considering you're going to have to change these out all the time, might be worth it to you to just go ahead and switch and get a manual tensioner. That being said, if you have any questions, of course, as always, go ahead and ask below. Let me know if you have any insight as well, And that's it for now.